Welcome to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danica. Along with me, we have Sam Jones. At this point, I'm kind of wondering, what title do I give you? Because you were mayor, you were state representative, you've worked under two governors, one as a liaison, the other head of state programs, was it?
Correct.
And now here you are, parish president.
Right.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And it's only been a few days, but you are now officially the parish president of St. Mary Parish. How does it feel capturing about 58, 59% of the vote, I believe, of the voters, their confidence in you? How does it make you feel?
It was one of the biggest victories I've ever had, short of when I wasn't opposed, which that was several times. But it was reassuring. Most votes that anybody got running for parish council, and everybody voted. And I thank them.
Well, I will tell you one thing. You hit the ground running. And we were there for the inauguration, the swearing in of all of the new, old parish council members, and of course you were there. I want to ask you something, and I probably should have asked this earlier. Addressing the former DA who told you he saw you first reading Mein Kampf. That's interesting, and I just want to kind of ask you about. You said your reason for reading Mein Kampf was because you wanted to know how the enemy thinks.
Exactly.
Can we talk about that?
Exactly. I mean, we never need to have another Hitler. We never need to have authoritarians that just eventually go in and take over the government, and we lose our vote. We lose our independence. And Hitler was a master at working it, and then he got the opportunity when the president died, and it was all over after that. People couldn't stop him. That's what we need to be aware of. Somebody that takes too much power and then refuses to leave.
Gotcha.
Can't do that. Cannot do that.
Definitely want to preface that first before we got started. So let's get right into why we're definitely here.
I was only 17 years old when I was reading that book.
Yeah.
And I did tell Bernie, I said, I read everything I can put my hands on. I have 1,000 books, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to know everything I can know about everything.
All right. Sounds good. Let's get to it. Of course, at that swearing in, one of the things I think it was kind of a revelation for a lot of people, everyone in there, as well as our audience, the budget shortfall and about approximate 2.5, maybe $2.7 million shortfall that we as a parish were facing. First time we're all hearing this. Was it your first time hearing this?
It was. And I didn't hear it until an hour or two after I became officially the parish president, and they stopped lying. And I had to force that out of them to tell me, when are we going to run out of money? And at first he said, March. I said, March? And then he backed it up to May. And I said, we're not going to have any money to pay bills? No money, no money. But it took, I don't know, a good 30 minutes, and it said, stop lying, stop lying.
Was it your first time asking them about this, about looking at the budget? Looking at, you were voted in, you had, October, you had a few months. Had you gone before then, before, the 8th of January to discuss the budget?
David Hannegriff has not spoken to me in 5 years, refuses to speak to me. He went and locked himself up with his partners and pals. He's the one that designed this. He designed this for failure for whoever was going to replace him, and his goal is to come back in 4 years. Good luck with that. I don't think he could win a dog catcher's race.
Very strong words there. So, but what are your plans to tackle this budget shortfall that now, we're in it now, we know now that this is where, the line is drawn here. So what's the plan?
I brought $1.5 million in suggestions pretty quickly, and they're working it. They're working to give me some options, but we're gonna act on those options in probably the next week or two. I don't want to wait. We need to get this fixed now.
Well, I know I took my notes, and here my notes are kind of laid out here. One of the things that you mentioned, now initially you mentioned, I'm not signing checks, but you came back on Wednesday night and said, I will sign checks.
Well, that was a broad statement that I made, and I meant superfluous things. we're going to sign checks for payroll, we're going to sign checks for contracts and those kinds of things. But when it comes to superfluous purchases, and that's just going to go down to virtual zero.
Yes. Well, that's what you said, pretty much. You're going to trim back the sales. You're going to send back what we don't need.
Right.
And also have the council pretty much go back to the drawing board, because as it stands, we have a $39 million budget, but it's technically, according to you, it's considerably less than that.
Yeah, it might be 37 million, something like that.
All right. We're going to get into this deep. So come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast with yours truly. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. Let's get right back into it. Sam Jones, Parish President, St. Mary Parish. We were talking about the budget shortfall. That's kind of top of the list. You were ready to tackle that, but also you brought in a little extra help. That same night of the inauguration, everyone was pretty much privy to Mr. Marion Newton. For myself, for the very first time, some knew him, but why Mr. Marion Newton as your CAO?
Yeah.
You know,
Marion, I've known him for 60 years, and we went to school together. We weren't particularly close, but he was effective. I mean, he worked 150 people out in the oil field. He retired from that, but he also was a special officer in the police department in Baldwin for 30 years, and he was a councilman for 4 years, and in that 4 years that he was there, they had a deficit for years before that. In that 4 years, they balanced the budget and knocked out the deficit entirely. So to me, he has experience that you just can't go find anywhere else. And I talked to him early on. He said he'd be interested, and we went with that.
Well, you do actually have a CAO who's already there, been there for 8 months. Do you think that you could work with that CEO that's already in place? Since the measure to have Mr. Newton was voted down at that, because I want to make sure I'm clear for folks who didn't watch the live. You can watch it. It's on our Facebook page, KWBJ TV 22. But because that was voted down, do you think you can work with the current CAO?
I'll say this. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Have you guys had a conversation? Have you talked to each other?
We have. Yeah, we have. Okay.
All right. With that said, so let's get back to order of business, the things that you want to do. Of course, we just went through, you at the inauguration meeting, you mentioned that you will not cut personnel. However, you will take a look at those individuals who are close to retirement. What do you plan to do with that?
Yeah, I'm going to get a list to see somebody's been there 30 years or something. They're getting close to retirement. And I was on that committee in Baton Rouge. I can help people to retire and not lose anything. But I'm not going to push anybody out.
With retirement, those individuals who may leave, are you hiring?
No, we'll leave those. Unless it's a critical one-person position that only one person can do, then we'll have to evaluate that. Having said that, I don't get to hire anybody.
Larry.
The CAO gets to hire everybody, and I can't do a darn thing about it. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with this charter.
Yes, let's talk about the charter.
There are 6 people that voted no on my choice, and they run the parish. That's it.
Well, I will say everyone in the building, from the council to yourself, and I think much of the public agrees that something has to be done about the charter. It's been around since 1983. And $12,000 for a parish president, and I think many people have said they would love to see a full-time parish president, but it was not voted. So, I mean, what do you do?
Well, you got 6 people that have basically strangled progress in the parish council. And they run it, they like running it, and it's a junta kind of thing, I guess. And it's a shame, because the work should be for the people and not for their own glorious power or whatever. And I'm not angry at each one of them. Some of them will never vote for anything that I ever propose. They've told me that. That's fine. It's not a majority. It's not even the whole 6. There's some people that have had other conversations with me, but we'll see. It's early.
Sam, you've got 4 years.
Yeah, it's early. Yeah. I don't think they're doing themselves any good. They're certainly not doing the parish any good. So, but they have the power.
All right. Let's take a break. Come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast. Let's get right back at it. Parish President Sam Jones, $2.5 million budget shortfall. Once you found that out, I mean, you said you found out the day of. That's on the 8th, but you've gone before. How did a budget get passed? Because typically, if it's not balanced, it's not passed.
Well, I talked to the acting parish president at the time, who is John Paul, and he mentioned something in a conversation. Somewhere in the middle of the year, we're going to have a cash crunch. I said, okay. And I asked him some other question, and then I just filed that back in the back of my head. And I knew that was a question I was going to ask Paul when I became the parish president, because there was just so much lying going on before. Hannah Griff was really putting his muscles down on him and all that kind of stuff. They were afraid to talk, maybe. All those things were at play.
So that day that you got there, I did wonder why really, I guess nobody really spoke up until they were asked a question. So are you saying that they weren't able to tell you any of this because they didn't know?
I don't know the answer to that. Okay. Hannah Griff was, I told him when he borrowed the $20 million for the road program that he couldn't afford that. I told him when the hospital was about to be closed here in Morgan City, he needed to get on it. He said he'd do it in a month and a half. A year later, I got the calls, the bells were ringing. I stopped in, and the governor and I fixed it in about 20 minutes. He was incompetent. The guy was incompetent, but he was destructive too. And we're having to clean up all of that.
Well, you are definitely, kind of a money man. You brought money to St. Mary Parish when you were the state rep. So do you think you'll have any of those connections still in Baton Rouge that you can call on now that we now have a new senator, Robert Arland. Also, Vinny's still in his seat. Do you have those connections? And even with our newest governor.
Yeah. I'm very close to the Arland family. I supported him in his election. I supported his dad in his election. We won those elections. Vinny is someone I've grown up my whole life with, so I can talk to them. And we're going to have cooperation 100%. I've known the new governor for 35 years. We've never had a bad moment. I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but at some point I will. And I'm optimistic. Yeah, I'm optimistic we'll have a good relationship. We've had one every time we've ever been together. We've had a good relationship.
Okay. I know it's pretty early. It's what we're saying is only day 2, 3, that you've been in office. And something you mentioned to me before, you said, I got hundreds of calls.
I have more than 100 I haven't returned yet because I just don't have time yet.
Yeah. What do they want from you?
Well, some of them are relatives of employees wanting to know whether their jobs are going to be safe rather than the employee themselves calling. Some of them have individual problems trying to get approval for a house to be built or this or that. Things that apparently they've been obstructed from getting done in the past. And now here's a new guy and I'm going to try him.
Will you have time for that? You're really part-time.
Yeah, I knew that when I ran for this, that it was a virtually non-paying job. But I've been blessed. I've had a long career in politics, and I know how to do things. And I thought, well, let's see what we can do here. Somebody's got to do this. The guy that ran against me was a Hannegriff guy. He put him up, you know, he financed him and all that kind of stuff. That guy works in Lafayette 5 days a week. We were going to have the same dysfunctional thing if that guy would have been parish president. And I don't really know him. I'm not talking down on him, but I'm just telling you the problems that they had with him. And David Hannegriff is a manipulator. He's never failed to manipulate, and he's still trying to manipulate.
All right. Well, thank you for being quite so open with me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I've told the truth every time I've been in office, and it's, I think people appreciate that, and that's why they reelect me.
All right. Well, we've got one more segment to go. I hope you guys are still with us. Come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast. Welcome back. Sam Jones, Parish President, newly elected to that position here in St. Mary Parish. Let's talk about moving forward, moving ahead.
Well, let's talk about moving backwards.
Moving backwards.
When David Hannegriff was here taking credit for all of the things he's done on coastal protection, that's such a lie. He was not involved in any of it. That was strictly the state that did anything. The parish never paid a dime for that. So I wanted to make that straight and clear too, because he's gone out there with all that blubber. Let's move on.
Oh, yes, I appreciate that. Let's talk about the future though. With regards to, you know, are you able to work with anybody? You know, that speaking of Hannegriff, he said, I can work with anybody.
Except
for you.
Except for me.
Now, what about you?
He admitted it. Look, we have 6 people that have formed up opposition or a different way. I do believe there are a couple of them that can be reasonable, but that has to happen soon. And if they're not, then I'll rule by veto. I do have a veto. I can sustain a veto. And I'll also reign by check writing. If they want to spend some money and it's not there, I'm not going to do it. Not going to sign that check.
I feel like I should say things, use words like truce, and and being a pacifist, not a pacifist, but just kind of a mediator here. Because I mean, I think people vote, right, because they want to see progress. And you wielding your power and they having their power, will there be a truce? Is there a way to be able to meet that truce without it being performed in front of the public eye at a parish council meeting?
There are 4 people on there that will not support anything I bring up. They've told me that. There are 2 people who have told me otherwise. So I'm hopeful. We'll get past this. I'm hopeful.
Okay.
But if not, I'll use what powers I have to limit what they want to do that we cannot do, and they can do what they do.
So we have the budget. That's one of the, I'm sure, the ongoing issue at this moment. What are some other issues that you would like to see, that you want to
Look,
work on?
This parish has lost 5,000 people or more in the last 10 years. The only parish in the state to lose population. It's insane, except Shreveport. We've got to change that. The reason it's failed is because this parish council has been part of that failure. We have to change that. We have people that we've recruited to bring in for businesses. It's starting to get full of business again. We're starting to have people come in. We used to have 35,000 people come into Morgan City every day to work. Now it's down to 20,000, but it's coming back up. We need to work on all that. We haven't had a new subdivision of any size in 20 years. And one of these guys that's against me said, I built one. No. That subdivision's been there for 30 years and somebody else started it. We need new places for people to live. People coming to Morgan City now, they have no place to live. The hotels are full. It's a bad thing and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have that kind of work going on. We need to tie ourselves to it. We need to improve. We need to make things available for those people to work here and move here and live here. Pay taxes here, be part of the parish. And they want to be. We just have to do it.
You have hundreds of calls right now that you're trying to get back to. Will you have an open door policy?
Sure, absolutely. Look, the job, again, the job doesn't pay anything, but I'm doing it for the love of this parish. Somebody has to do it. If it was a great job that paid a lot of money, you'd have a bunch of people running for it. I've had a good life, I've had a good political career, and people still trust me because I've done the work. So that's why I do it.
Awesome. You have 30 seconds left. You have the floor. Make it good.
For everyone out there, let's be bold, let's be hopeful, because we will win in the end. Good people who work hard win. Good people who do the right thing win. Those who try to do deceptive and destructive things usually lose. Let's be on the winning side.
All right. Thank you very much. My platform is open to you, folks. Give me a call. Hit me up, KWBJTV22. We thank you very much for sticking with us. And also make sure to subscribe to us on Facebook. Take care. Hi.